Hello, how are you all doing? You know, there are many journeys people take to find great things. Some people walk labyrinths to find peace. But there's only one journey I know to find out how you're worth more than all the gold in the world. I'm going to tell you a story. It's a story about where I come from. I come from County Kerry in the southwest of Ireland. And on the Cork-Kerry border, there are two mountains that have an ancient name. The name in Gaelic and Irish is Dá Cuiche un Anu. And in the English translation, it would be the breasts of Anu or Danu. And Danu was a great earth goddess. And there she shows herself quite well. For these two mountains are 1,800 feet high. And on top of them are two cairns of rocks. And when you climb these mountains, those cairns are about 8 feet high. And they have been standing there for thousands of years. This mountain is known in our old mythology, for there was a tribe of people in Ireland called An Tuatha Dé Danann. Tuatha, the tribe of Dana, or Danu, or Anu. And this was the tribe of magic and music. And in the 3rd century BC, when the Celts came and they fought with the Tuatha Dé Danann to see who would rule the land, they came to an agreement, and the Celts agreed that they would take the upper land and the Tuatha Dé Danann would go back into the underland. So they went to some sacred sites in Ireland, and Anya Quilchi was one of them. And they went from the upper world and they went back down into the spirit world down below. And there they reside up to this day. Well, this mountain is still known. At the end of this mountain there is a circular old fort. They call it the City. And on every first Sunday of May morning, every year, a priest will go there at sunrise and say Mass, and they light a fire at the base of this mountain. So you'd see a sacred mountain that has been sacred for maybe 5,000 years, and still up to today, it is held sacred in its own little way. Well, one day I decided I'd go wandering in that mountain. And I decided I was going to climb to the top, but who wanted to take the shortest road straight up? I said, for a change, let me wander and let me spiral up to the top, so at least the view would be changing as I was going around. Sure enough, off I went, way up. Getting tired, and I wasn't far up at all. Away up, and the view was changing as I was going around, and halfway up, didn't I come across a load of granite? Granite rock in a mountain that's covered in limestone? There's something not so right here. So I had an examination of the stones to see where would they have been brought from and how long ago would they have been put there. And I moved some of the stones around, and all of a sudden there was a slab right beneath the small stones. And I tried to put my hand down and pull it from the ground, but it was a bigger rock than I. And it wore me out, and sure, what did I do? But I turned around and sat down to ease my back, and I looked out. I saw the most beautiful view around me that I wasn't appreciating at all on the way up the mountain. For it's seldom we look behind us to see where we've come from. Well, off anyway, I was looking around, and for some strange reason I got the encouragement to turn around and get off the stone and try to put my hand on it to lift it again. And I put my hand on it, and the next thing I tried to do was lift it up, and sure, before I even tried, with one hand it lifted off the ground like I had the strength of 10 men. And I looked and pulled it back, and what was there beneath but a hole about that size, about that round, the blackest hole you could ever see. And I stepped back, and the first thing I did, I got a stone and threw it into the hole. And it just went in and rolled down, and I didn't hear it no more. And again I went down, and hey! And I was scared enough, because of course when you see a hole as black as that, it's not the bravest man I became. But I was curious, because I remembered the story of the Tuatha Dé Danann going down into the spirit world. And I knew they were the ones that held the gold, all the gold, the fairies' gold. And sure enough, didn't I look around the place and I picked up a bit of a sticky like that. And I decided I'd stick it into the hole and poke it down to see if there was anything there. And then I did poke it once and poke it twice. No. And I went in and I went into the hole a little further all the time. One, shh, and I turned around every now and again, of course. I would turn around and what did I see? I saw daylight starting to get smaller and the hole getting smaller, and again I'd face the darkness. Down and down and down and down, deeper and deeper. Oh, it was silent in here. Smelly. But I'd look out and I saw daylight getting smaller and smaller, and again I faced the darkness and went right into the middle of the hole in the mountain until I was crouched down in the below, and I'd look behind me and I'd look around, and what did I see? I saw a little star twinkling. There it is. Daylight, the place I came from. And I looked in back into the darkness, and I turned around and I listened. I have never heard anything as quiet in all my life. I listened to the silence, and in that silence I heard something, and as soon as I'd listen and hear it, it was gone again until I completely stopped and listened to the dead silence again in a completely dark place. Oh, what are you doing here? I heard it. Where is it? But again, once I thought I heard it, sure, it was gone again. This time I became very quiet and very silent and listened.